Hello, it's Peter Cook with the North Berrien Historical Museum, and I'm here at Watervliet Cemetery, which is located on Red Arrow Highway, about a quarter mile east of town and M140. Watervliet Cemetery is one of three cemeteries in Watervliet Township. The others are St. Joseph Cemetery, which is also located on Red Arrow Highway, about half a mile west of Watervliet. And there's also Fairview Cemetery, located on the corner of Red Arrow Highway and County Line Road, about 2 miles east of Watervliet. The records of Watervliet Cemetery date back as far as 1882. The Sexton book containing the records prior to June of 1882 was lost. But there are graves dating back very far here, and a lot of local names that you recognize if you're from the area. Boyer and Branch, and we're going to focus on a few figures of note. So let's get started. We're going to start with Guy Cross, who is buried right here in front of me. Guy Cross, noted area photographer, also entrepreneur, vaudevillian, adventurer, inventor, and oil painter, to name just a few of his traits and skills. Guy was born in Bangor, Michigan in 1878, and by 1898, at the age of 20, Guy had formed a photographic partnership with a man named Will Funk. This partnership lasted about 1 year, and then Guy opened his own studio in Hartford. Guy came to Watervliet shortly thereafter and first photographed Paw Paw Lake. He then purchased a photo studio and gallery in 1902 on Main Street and made a name for himself as an early Watervliet photographer. In 1902, he published a directory of visitors and summer residents at Paw Paw Lake, and a couple years later, in 1904, he published the Souvenir History of Watervliet that featured images of prominent men from Watervliet. Guy was known for his sense of humor and photographic manipulation. He also held no less than 5 photography-related patents, and he had studios all over, not just in Southwest Michigan, but all over the country. There's studios in Florida and Texas. Quite the entrepreneur. And I mentioned that he also was an oil painter. He had studied oil painting under a teacher from the Art Institute of Chicago, and eventually had some of his works exhibited. His vaudevillian career spanned several years. He was known for impersonations and used traveling around as a vaudevillian as an opportunity to photograph other parts of the country. So very well-versed individual, Guy Cross. He is buried here with his first wife, Anna Cross. She sadly died very young in 1912. And then he remarried, and on the other side is Noli Cross, his second wife. And that is the Cross family here in Watervliet Cemetery. I'm now standing over the headstone of John B. Olson Jr., who was born in Chicago in 1873, and he was married to Maud Nelson, the famous Boston Bloomer girl baseball player, best known as a pitcher. She later played for the Chicago Star Bloomers, managed by John. So the couple were well experienced in baseball when they moved from Chicago to Watervliet. John became the manager of the Cherokee All-Stars, a team composed of Native Americans from tribes all across the country, not necessarily Cherokee. And they traveled in a custom Pullman railcar named Clementine. Clementine carried not only the team, but a portable grandstand, a fence that was 1,200 feet long by 12 feet high, and an electric plant. This allowed games to be played in both the afternoon and the evening. The fence was for towns without a stadium, so that spectators had to pay to get in and see the game. John was very much of an entrepreneurial mindset, was really big into promotion. In 1908, Maud began pitching for the Cherokee All-Stars. billed as the undisputed champion lady baseball player in the world. John also managed a team started by Maud in 1910, the Western Bloomer Girls, and the couple owned a farm nearby on Paw Paw Avenue between Coloma and Watervliet, now the location of Paw Paw Lake Golf Course. The family also owned the Rose Villa Hotel on Beck Road between North Coloma and Paw Paw Lake Road. And as I understand it, the Western Bloomer Girls stayed in the barn on the property, which was later moved to Paw Paw Lake Golf Course and used for a clubhouse. And unfortunately, John died suddenly in 1917 of pneumonia after a steamship ride from Chicago. And after John's death, Maud again played for Boston and later managed a women's team for the Chicago Athletic Club. She remarried and passed away in 1944, so she is not buried here with John, but the couple definitely left a legacy on Watervliet. Now here we are visiting with George Ferguson and his wife Esther. George Ferguson, best known as the general manager and president of the Watervliet Paper Company for many years. He was born in Bangor in 1892 and earned his Bachelor of Science from Kalamazoo College, where he was later on the Board of Trustees as well as the president. He came to the Watervliet Paper Company in 1914 and, as I mentioned, was president and general manager spanning the years 1929 to 1957. He actually, I believe he retired on January 1st, 1958. While there, he made many improvements to the facility. A semi-chemical hardwood pulp mill was added under Ferguson. This allowed the Watervliet Paper Mill to make their own pulp on site instead of having it shipped in from elsewhere, making the Watervliet Paper Company more vertically integrated, overseeing multiple steps, all the steps of production. They also added a chemical recovery plant under Ferguson. Production capacity was doubled during his tenure, and the mill received national recognition for their quality paper during his time, during Ferguson's time as president and general manager. He also made the mill a good place to work, introduced profit sharing in the 1950s. Before his time at the paper mill, Ferguson served 3 terms as mayor of Watervliet in the 1920s. With his wife Esther, they had 3 children, and George passed away in 1978 at the age of 85, and Esther passed away in 1997, aged 102. So that is George and Esther Ferguson. All right, so we're now with Leon D. Case and his wife Edna. Leon Case was born in Wisconsin in the year 1877. Eugene Case, Leon's father, purchased the Watervliet Record in 1891. The family then ran the Watervliet Record for 67 years. Early on, Leon worked for the Watervliet Paper Mill and then served in the Michigan State Senate from 1913 to 1914, and again from 1933 to 1936. Leon was then Michigan's Secretary of State from 1937 to 1938. Leon lost the re-election amid political turnovers in 1938, despite leading the state ticket, receiving some 70,000 more votes than did his partner's candidate for governor. And sadly, his wife Edna died in 1938, shortly after he lost the re-election amidst political scandals. And so Leon suffered a nervous breakdown and died the following year, 1939. But the Case family, huge as far as running the Watervliet Record for many years, which of course the Watervliet Record is now the Tri-City Record. And we're now in the shade here with Pearl Playford, who was born near Quincy in Branch County, Michigan in 1879. Pearl then came to Watervliet in 1888 with her mother and attended Watervliet Public Schools, graduating in the class of 1901. She had a brief stint as a cutter girl at the Watervliet Paper Mill. Pearl then worked for 25 years at the Watervliet Record for Leon D. Case and became a skilled linotypist while there. She later worked for the Harbor Daily Spring and the Coloma Courier. She then, to use a more modern term, worked from home for many years, writing for the Kalamazoo Gazette and the South Bend Tribute. Then, spanning 1959 to 1966, she published a column in the Watervliet Record called Reminiscing with Pearl Playford. In this column, Pearl covered local history and civic issues, as well as topics like world history, prohibition, holidays, church affairs, and even the weather. And the Tri-City Record is now including these stories in their history column, rotating Pearl's articles with ones by Roy Bud Davis and Dorothy Cannell. And when Pearl passed away in September of 1968, her obituary was already ready to go. She had written her own obituary. And we actually have Pearl's book for sale through the North Berrien Historical Museum website, northberrienhistory.org, as well as we also have some volumes on the records of Watervliet, Berrien County, Michigan, by Carol J. Kernan that are available also through the northberrienhistory.org website, as well as the Guy Cross, a reprinted version of the Souvenir History of Watervliet, available through the museum's website in our gift shop. We have lots of resources available. And that concludes our cemetery tour of Watervliet Cemetery. Thank you very much for joining us today to go through just a few figures found in the cemetery. And if you're interested, please watch our other videos. Thank you.